Dennis Wallen and the legendary Big John Hart. So let me just start. Who goes back the furthest with the band? Dennis.
Day one.
Day one. Tell us about how that started.
I was born a poor black child.
Oh dear.
That's another story.
Can't hear.
Just hold it up to your, yeah.
I worked for an advertising agency. I was the art director, creative director, and we knew Bill O'Coin, who was Kiss's manager, as all of you know. Ultimately, eventually, Kiss's manager. But we knew Bill from the advertising business. So he was sharing office space with us on Madison Avenue, pre-Kiss. And one day, Bill walked into the art department, and he said, "Hey, Dennis, I'm thinking of managing a band."
Yeah, but it's still too far down.
They put makeup on their faces, and they do it real bad. Very messy. And would you come to their, we're going to shoot an album cover for their first album. This is probably not the first story, but it's close. And would you come to the photo shoot and help them with their makeup? I said, sure. And then I thought about it, because I'm an art director more than an artist. So I said, being an art director, I want to get the right guy for the right job. So I called an illustrator that I knew, who was really into showbiz. He had done a lot of Broadway show posters and stuff. His name was David Bird. And David was pretty well known at the time. And David said he loved to do it. So he came to the photo shoot. I went to the photo shoot, watched that. And that was really it. That was, you know, I mean, I did some little things before that day, but that was the first kind of real anything.
And what was your first impression of him?
Well, the first time I saw him play, they played in this little dance studio rehearsal hall, and they set up some folding chairs, like 12. And Bill O'Coin was there, I was there, Ace Frehley's wife-to-be was there, Jeanette. Anybody else who was there, I don't remember, but I think Neil Bogart was there, who, you know, signed him to their first record contract on Casablanca Records. And it was 12 people. And they played in front of us as close as I am to Big John. I mean, I could reach out and touch any one of those guys playing. And they had Marshall set up, but not, of course, not staged.
Right.
And so, you know, we just getting blown back off our chair. That was the first time I saw them in makeup. First time I heard a note of their music, anything. First time for everything. And my first impression was they were scary. You know, people said, oh, glam rock or heavy metal rock. And I said, no, it should be scary rock. Because that's what they were to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And then who came next then with working? Was it John or was it?
Rob, what year, John?
75.
So
John was in 75?
John and Ken Kelly are pretty close.
Right.
Because I had to call Ken in 1975 because Destroyer, he painted the Destroyer cover and Love Gun. Destroyer came out early in 76, anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to start that in 75 probably.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But very close.
And for those of you who don't know, Big John has a book coming out about his time with Kiss and other bands. And the one thing that in LA we talked about this, that people forget that John also worked with Eric Carr in that incarnation of the band. But John, what was your first impression of when you met the guys?
I wasn't quite sure what they were all about.
Yeah.
You know, I came from more of a country rock background, just stuff that I liked. So my first dealings with them, it was just kind of weird. I wasn't sure what they were about, didn't know what they were doing, but they offered me a job. I had to see it through. And it was interesting to watch their career grow.
Yeah.
Because when I started working for them, there was still an opening act. And I can remember we were opening for Black Sabbath. They only did 3 shows. Black Sabbath took us off their tour. Because then they wound up playing to half a house. Because the people who come to see Black Sabbath, or rather Kiss, when we were over, they left. They were hanging out backstage waiting for us to come out. You know, so Ozzy was upset that there was nobody there.
Yeah. Now, is it true, a lot of people say that because you were so close to the band, you sort of know where all the bodies are buried?
Well, yeah, but I'm sworn to secrecy on that. I can't tell.
Yeah.
But it's like any other type of relationship. When we did work that closely, in the beginning, we were doing 6 shows a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 7 if we could squeeze it. So you become your own worst enemies and brothers at the same time.
Yeah.
And you know, on any given day, somebody's having a bad day.
Yeah.
It's just, that's nature. So we would all deal with it. It all carries over. If somebody's got a problem at home, you know, that translates to us out on the road because you share it.
Right.
You know, and then there's the commonplace things of being on the road. You're not home for birthdays. You're not home for most holidays. And that affects everybody's psyche, you know, because like take Ace and Peter. Peter was married at that time. So, of course, you want to be with your family on holidays, but that's not working for you.
Right.
You know, because you got to be out there doing what you do. And Ace the same way. He was working on getting married. Same thing. He ain't going to be around for some of the parties. You're not going to be around for some of those things because that's just the nature of the business.
Yeah. And for those, you know, you guys all seen the iconic shots of John, you know, covering their face. And if you guys want photos, he'll do that and take a photo with you. It's kind of a cool thing. Robert, you have a more recent history with the band. I mean, tell us how you got started with the band.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Is it on? You may have to flip it on.
Oh, click it on?
Yeah.
Is that this?
No, it should be it.
Sorry guys, I'm a dender.
Rob Conti, lead vocals.
I'll just use this. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, my way of meeting the band was a little unusual. In 1990, I had written a comic book through a series by Revolutionary Comics called Rock and Roll Comics. It was based on Kiss. It was a black and white, small published thing. It wound up going into 5th printing, which at the time was very huge. It wound up being about 300,000 copies in print. And then I had introduced myself to Gene and Paul at the Ritz. I believe it was the Alive 3 pre-show or the Revenge pre-show. And I walked up to Gene and I said, "Hey, I did this comic book." And he looked at me and he said, "You did not have my permission," and just walked away. And it was funny. I was actually coincidentally standing next to his mother, Florence, and she looked at me. She patted me on the shoulder. She goes, "Everything be okay. Everything okay." And then about a half a year later, they did a signing for Alive 3 at Carl Place, Tower Records in Carl Place, and their then manager, Larry Mazer, had introduced me to Gene and Paul formally. And Paul and I had a mutual friend by the name of Neil Tiemann, who was once the drummer in his previous band, Uncle Joe. So I had just mentioned that to him in passing, and he was all excited, and we exchanged phone numbers, and I got him in touch with Neil. And then, you know, I told him then, I said, you know, I'm going to work for you guys one day, and you know, we laughed it off. And then when I was living and working in LA, I was in charge of a rock and roll comics series called Rocket Comics. And I had been working officially with Metallica and Pantera and Santana on their comic book adventures. And then Gene called me totally out of the blue out of the office. Actually, before that, his other manager, a fellow by the name of Jess Hilson, called me, asked me about 100 questions, and his final question to me was, if you, Gene, and Paul, and your mother were on an island, and the island was sinking, what would you do? Only 3 of you can survive. 1 of you has to die. Who's it going to be? And I replied, I said, well, you know, I'll sacrifice myself so that Gene and Paul can take care of my mother. Less than 10 minutes later, Gene Simmons calls me. I take the call. And the next thing I know, I'm helping him and Tommy Thayer set up the Kiss Unplugged conventions on the West Coast. The LA show, the Portland show, which was canceled because of low ticket sales, and the Seattle show. And then one thing led to another, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call. We're putting the makeup back on. We want you to move back from LA to New York. You could have an office at Polygram Records, and you're in charge of remastering and repackaging the entire catalog. And I was totally floored. I was not expecting that. And that was a week after the very first Kiss Unplugged convention in '95 in LA, where Gene announced that I was hired in front of everybody. I did not know I was getting the job. So can you imagine having a group full of this, and Gene and Paul and the gang are on stage, and we just hired this guy, Robert Conti, to be the Kiss catalog consultant, and one of my friends would go, "Rob's right there," and they made me stand up and speak. And it was just one of the best days of my professional life. And I got to work with them on and off throughout the remastering, repackaging process, and I got to work on a bunch of merchandise during that time. And because it was the Kiss reunion tour, quote unquote, the second coming, it was just such a fascinating experience. And I'm actually chronicling all that right now in a book that's going to come out next year. What it's like for a Kiss fan that came from nothing to actually, be Gene's guest at dinner at his house in Beverly Hills and stuff like that. It was such an honor. I was so blessed to have had that experience.
Very cool.
Woo!
There you go.
Thank you.
Now, Lynn, you go back with the band too. I mean, when was the first time you met the band, and how did you get involved in photographing them?
Is 1977 40 years ago?
Wow.
Unfortunately, I think it is, although I don't keep track of the clock. But yeah, I met them through an assignment from Circus Magazine to photograph the band. And I just want to take this moment to say, because a number of books are being done and will come out, and that I have cards here on the stage which are free for you to take. So you can see a picture of me shooting Gene in my studio. This is 1977, and this tells you a little bit about the book. This book is being put out by an art book publisher, Rizzoli. And I'm someone who cares a lot about the musician, not because of the musician, surprise, surprise. I care about the fan. To me, that is the most inspiring part of any music experience, because just the idea that you're willing to spend your hard-earned dollars. I don't know if any of you are familiar with me or my career, but I co-managed a band called Grand Funk Railroad. And when I managed them, the choice to do that was because all of us coming from Michigan, I knew what it was to work hard for your dollar and what it meant on Friday night to go to a show, or on Saturday, and how you want to let loose and feel the power that music allows you to release. So in my books, and particularly this one, I felt that the Kiss fan, from my point of view, had never really gotten the quality of what an art book publisher will give you. And I wanted the pictures to be not only memorable, but I wanted the book to be the kind of sacred object that was deserving of your unconditional love for the band. I said I photographed them in 1977. I will make you a bet there are people here who have seen the band even before 1977. To me, the bands that have this kind of dedicated following deserve only the greatest respect in terms of the products that are created for them at hopefully prices that make sense. Now, I'm not saying this as a sales thing. It's because I don't really get the opportunity, being a photographer who's usually just with the artists that I'm photographing, to communicate with the people that not only have made my life possible, but have made their lives possible. So I want to thank you for coming to this KISS convention today and allowing
Kiss Expo, I'm sorry, Kiss
I'm
Convention
sorry.
is trademarked
KISS Expo.
by Gina Paul.
Sorry about that. I just want to thank you all for that. And as we go on, I want you to know these are bad. These are some images. Can you hold? I'm going to leave some of these down here. These are only, these are only kind of like Xerox color. The book is much better than this. But they were proofs for me to see what was going on. And instead of throwing them out, I thought, people are going to want these. But I really don't want you to post things, shooting them, because they're not the best quality. They're not the quality that's in the book. you know, this is printed like from Xerox stuff, but I just wanted to share some of it with you. And I wanted to tell you that this book idea came a few years ago, and I